Hello there. Come, find your favorite position for rest and settle into your cozy, modern bed. Let the noise and the worries of the world you know begin to fade away, dissolving like a distant echo. Feel the soft, clean comfort of your pillow. Beneath your head, the gentle, reassuring weight of your blankets, and become aware of the quiet, easy rhythm of your own breathing. Tonight, we are leaving all of this familiar comfort and safety far behind. We are stepping through the great veil of time, not into a story of epic battles or grand romance, but into the gritty, unforgiving, and deeply human heart of the Roman Empire. Imagine this for a moment. You are not a senator draped in fine, purple-striped toga silks, reclining on a plush couch. You are not a triumphant emperor with a golden laurel crown resting on your brow, contemplating your own divinity. Tonight, you are not Julius Caesar. You are just you, with all your modern sensibilities about comfort, hygiene, and personal space, dropped unprepared and utterly unprotected into a world of sandals, sewage, and state-sponsored crucifixions. This is Rome in the 2nd century CE, a magnificent, sprawling metropolis that was, for the overwhelming majority of its inhabitants, a constant, grueling, and often terrifying struggle for simple survival. As we begin this immersive journey, dim the lights if you haven't already. Let the world around you go soft, quiet, and still. We are about to walk the filthy, crowded streets, eat the strange and simple food, navigate a society where life is cheap, and listen to the sounds of an empire that is both glorious and grotesque. By the end of this day, you will be deeply, profoundly grateful for the simple, unspoken miracle of your own quiet, clean, and safe bed. So, take one more slow, deep breath. Allow your body to sink deeper and deeper into the mattress, nice and easy, letting go of the day that has passed. Your long day in the Roman Empire is about to begin. Your breathing is slow and steady now, a quiet tide pulling you away from the shore of wakefulness and out into the deep, calm ocean of sleep. You open your eyes, not to the familiar, gentle light of your room, but to a suffocating gloom. The sounds hit you first, a chaotic symphony of a city already violently awake. Chickens are clucking somewhere nearby, perhaps on a neighbor's balcony. Vendors are yelling in a harsh, guttural Latin dialect from the street below, and a baby is crying somewhere down the hall, a thin, reedy wail that speaks of hunger or discomfort, with an unnerving persistence. Congratulations, you have just woken up in a Roman insula, the ancient world's version of a sprawling, poorly constructed, and dangerously overcrowded apartment building. Think of it not as a home, but as a multi-story vertical slum, a death trap held together with crumbling mortar, cheap, unseated timber, dust, prayer, and profoundly questionable architecture. You are probably living on the 3rd or 4th floor, which is very bad news indeed. In Rome, altitude is directly proportional to poverty. The higher the floor, the poorer the tenant, the cheaper the rent, and the more likely your ceiling is to finally give way when your upstairs neighbor, a boisterous and heavy-footed man named Titus, spills a heavy jug of olive oil for the 3rd time this week. The thought of a sudden, greasy end is a constant, low-level anxiety. Your room is small, barely bigger than a modern walk-in closet. The rough stone and plaster walls seem to sweat with damp condensation in the humid summer and radiate a bone-deep penetrating chill in the winter. There's no window, not a proper one with glass, anyway. Just a small, unglazed hole in the wall that serves as your only source of light and air. It lets in a sliver of grey, smoky daylight, along with the city's ever-present smoke, the pungent, cooking smells from your neighbor's illegal charcoal brazier, and the occasional unwelcome pigeon, which stares at you with a disturbingly judgmental expression. Your bed is a thin mattress, a coarse sack stuffed with straw that crackles every time you move. You can feel the lumps and knots through the thin fabric, and you know, with a grim certainty, that you are sharing it with a thriving and contented colony of lice. The blanket is a single sheet of coarse, damp wool that smells faintly of mildew, old sweat, and quiet regret. There is no furniture to speak of, no decorations on the wall to lift the spirit, and certainly no kitchen. Cooking inside your room is strictly forbidden, a rule born from the grim experience of entire city blocks burning to the ground. A small, unattended cooking fire could ignite the whole wooden structure in minutes, and organized fire codes have not yet been invented. Your worldly possessions are few and humble. A simple, chipped clay cup for your watered-down wine, a worn-out sleeveless tunic that serves as both your daywear and your nightgown, and perhaps, if you are feeling particularly fancy, a roughly carved wooden comb. There is no toilet, not in your room, not even on your floor. A simple, unlidded chamber pot sits in the corner of your tiny room, its presence a silent, odorous judgment on your life. Later, you will have to carry its foul contents down several flights of narrow, rickety, and poorly lit wooden stairs. You'll have to navigate past your neighbors, also carrying their own pots, all to empty it into the open street gutter below. You'll do this while hoping not to slip on a loose, rotting step and add your own body to the morning's grim and messy offerings to the sewer gods. And the walls. The walls are paper thin. You hear everything. Your neighbor to the left, a devout man, is praying loudly to Mercury for a successful business deal, his voice a droning monotone. The family to your right is coughing, a dry, hacking sound that suggests something serious and probably very contagious. Below you, a couple is arguing with a fiery passion that threatens the structural integrity of your floor. The air itself is heavy, a thick, palpable soup of smoke from hundreds of chimneys, the ever-present scent of mildew, and the distinct, cloying perfume of unwashed humanity. Somewhere downstairs, in a ground-floor shop, a baker is already at work, and the rich, warm smell of fresh bread wafts up. A cruel and daily taunt because you are not invited to partake. From the street below, the morning chorus begins in earnest. Street vendors are yelling, hawking their prices for figs, olives, and buckets of slimy, pungent fish guts. A distant centurion is barking orders at a new unfortunate recruit who has probably done something wrong and is already bleeding for it. You haven't even gotten out of your lumpy, insect-ridden bed yet, and you are already sweating from the humid, stale air, itchy from the lice, and possibly inhaling fine, toxic lead dust from the city's famous plumbing system, which serves the public fountains and the rich, but not your humble home. This is your morning. You are not an emperor. You are not a gladiator. You are just another poor soul in an overcrowded tenement, trying desperately not to fall down the stairs, or anger a forgotten city god before noon. You are awake, and you have a full, grueling, and dangerous Roman day ahead of you. Your breathing is a gentle wave, rising and falling in the profound quiet of your room. You have survived the treacherous, dark climb down the crooked stairs of your insula, a small victory in a day that will be full of struggles. Now it is time to address the second most urgent and unpleasant matter of the morning. Your bladder As we have established, there is no bathroom in your apartment, of course. No sink, no flush toilet, not even a private bucket with a shred of dignity. Instead, you shuffle down the already crowded street, your full chamber pot held carefully in one hand, your fleeting sense of modesty clutched tightly in the other. You are making your way toward the nearest latrinae, unsettling and deeply public version of a restroom. Calling it public is generous. It is more accurately a social club for strangers who have absolutely no problem making direct, unwavering eye contact while attending to their most private business. You arrive to find a large, open, and echoing room. Along the walls are long benches made of cold, unforgiving marble or stone, with a series of keyhole-shaped holes cut into them at regular, uncomfortably close intervals. Beneath these benches, a shallow trough, a channel of constantly flowing water, carries away the collective shame of the city's lower classes, eventually feeding into the great sewer, the cloaca maxima. You find an empty spot and sit. If you dare, your tunic hitched up around your waist. You sit on the cold stone and pray to the gods that the person who sits down beside you, their knee almost touching yours, doesn't want to engage in a lengthy and detailed chat about the price of grain or the latest chariot race. Privacy is not a thing here. It is a concept that has not been invented for people of your class. Doors, absolutely not. Dividers between the holes. A laughable luxury you might find in a senator's private villa, but certainly not here. People treat the latrine like a town square, but with significantly worse acoustics and smells to your right. To businessmen, their faces serious, are discussing a shipping contract while squatting. To your left, a retired soldier is complaining loudly about his sciatica to anyone who will listen, his groans echoing in the cavernous space. Meanwhile, you are just trying very hard not to look directly across from you, where another man is calmly and slowly chewing olives, and has not broken eye contact with you since the moment you walked in. Then comes the real treat, the final, horrifying stage of this hygienic horror show, the tessorium. This is the Roman equivalent of toilet paper. It is a natural sea sponge attached to the end of a long wooden stick, which is kept in a bucket of murky, shared vinegar or salt water in the middle of the room. In theory, you are supposed to rinse it in the flowing water trough before and after you use it. In practice, well, let us just say that that single sponge has seen things. Unspeakable things. It has been shared by hundreds, perhaps thousands, of your fellow citizens, some of whom were undoubtedly sick. You pick it up and wipe hesitantly. The damp sponge, a horrifying combination of rough and soft, and you hope, with all your soul, that the vinegar did its job. If you are feeling particularly lucky today, maybe you brought your own personal rag from home. If you are feeling rich, perhaps you brought some moss. But chances are, you just used what everyone else used, and you will now carry the quiet, lingering, and deeply unsanitary shame of shared hygiene with you for the rest of the day. And if you think you can just skip this whole unsettling ritual by relieving yourself in a quiet alley, think again. Public urination laws exist, and the fines are real. Roman law enforcement, such as it is not known for its subtle or gentle warnings. Once you are done, you might want to wash your hands. Wait, no, you don't. There is no soap, a luxury item for the rich. The only option is a communal stone basin near the entrance, filled with the same water that flows through the troughs. And it has seen more unwashed fingers than a handshake competition at a plague ward. You leave the latrina feeling physically lighter, but emotionally, spiritually, and hygienically you feel slightly more dead inside. But that's Rome for you. And now, with that ordeal finally over, it is time for breakfast, if you can truly and honestly call it that. Let your body sink deeper and deeper into the incredible comfort of your bed. You have done your morning business and have managed not to fall into a gutter or get arrested for it. That is a victory in itself. Now, it is time for breakfast, the most important meal of the day unless, of course, you are a Roman, in which case it is more of a polite, unsatisfying formality before a long day of work and grinding misery. Welcome to the entaculum, a Roman morning feast that consists, for you, of precisely two things: stale bread and watered-down wine. Sometimes, if the gods are smiling upon you, there might be a hard, intensely salty piece of cheese, or a few wrinkled, bitter olives. But mostly, there is just disappointment. Forget everything you know and love about a modern breakfast. There is no coffee. The Romans did not have it, and the very idea would have confused them. There are no eggs, no bacon, no sweet pastries, and certainly no oat milk lattes. Breakfast is not meant to be satisfying. It is not meant to be enjoyable. It is meant to provide just enough sustenance to ensure you do not collapse into a heap before lunchtime. Your bread is likely Ponies rusticus, a rough, incredibly chewy lump made from whole grain, often mixed with grit, chaff, and whatever else was swept up from the mill floor. It was likely baked yesterday, or perhaps the day before. It is dense enough to qualify as a small, edible weapon and has the dry, crumbly texture of limestone. The wine you drink is heavily diluted with water because even the Romans, a people famous for their indulgence, knew that being properly drunk before sunrise was generally a bad idea. Unless, of course, you were a senator, in which case it was practically a professional requirement. Since there is no kitchen in your tiny, flammable apartment, you eat this bleak meal standing in the street. Or perhaps you are squatting beside a public fountain, alongside a crowd of other equally unenthused citizens, all gnawing on bread that tastes like flavorless tree bark. If you are fortunate enough to have a bit of olive oil to dip it in, or a smear of garam rum's famously pungent and eye-wateringly salty fermented fish sourced in congratulations, you have just added an element of aromatic horror to your already bleak and depressing meal. If you were wealthy, of course, things would be entirely different. You might be enjoying fruit imported from the provinces, or bread sweetened with expensive honey from Greece. But you are not wealthy. You are a normal Roman citizen, a plebeian, just rich enough to not be enslaved, and just poor enough to genuinely envy your neighbor's broken jug of sour, lumpy goat milk. Sometimes vendors will wander by, their voices a melodic, practiced chant, selling hot, greasy chickpea fritters or pastries dripping with honey. For a fleeting, beautiful moment, you feel a spark of hope, a sharp pang of desire. But then you remember that your small coin pouch is emptier than a gladiator's expression of sympathy. So you take another hard, joyless bite of your bread, and you pretend that it is cake. And this is how your day truly starts, with a meal of hard carbohydrates, mild dehydration, and a growing, sinking realization that you are about to walk several miles across the city on thin, flimsy leather sandals, with nothing but stale, gritty crumbs in your stomach and a faint, lingering buzz from last night's leftover wine. Do not worry, it does not get better from here, because now it is time to go to work. Let your own muscles, which have worked hard all day, now relax and soften as we step into a world of relentless, unending labor. You have finished your hearty breakfast of bread and mild, lingering despair, And now it is time to face the Roman workday. And let us be perfectly clear, unless you are a senator, a poet with a very generous, wealthy patron, or one of the lucky few who inherited a vineyard from a dead uncle with no other heirs, you are working, and you are doing it hard. From sunrise to sunset, you might be a laborer, a mercenarius, hauling goods at the docks. You might be a potter, a bricklayer, a street cleaner, or, if your luck is truly and profoundly sour, a sewer worker tasked with maintaining the great cloaca maxima. The city of Rome is a monstrous beast with an insatiable, endless appetite. It needs roads, aqueducts, temples, baths, and forums, and someone has to build them. That someone is you, with your bare, calloused hands, working under the relentless Mediterranean sun, wearing flimsy sandals that provide all the arch support of a soggy, trampled leaf. The Roman workday starts early, very early. The sun is barely a rumor on the eastern horizon, but the foreman, the curator, is already yelling in a harsh guttural Latin and waving a thick wooden stick for emphasis. If you are late, your meager pay for the day is docked. Or worse, you were beaten, publicly shamed in front of your peers, or simply fired. In Roman terms, being fired means you will likely starve to death, but you will do so with a profound, if unfelt sense of honor. Your tools are basic, heavy, and brutal. You dig with a shovel that feels like it is made of splinters and prayer. You carry heavy marble blocks or stacks of bricks on a wooden hod balanced precariously on your aching back. You haul endless buckets of water from a nearby cistern that smells like old socks and broken ambition. There are no gloves to protect your hands. There are no steel-toed boots. There are no hard hats. There is only sweat, dust, and the constant nagging awareness that one single slip on a loose stone might crush your spine and your career. Simultaneously, let's imagine you are a construction worker on a new public bath. You spend your day mixing mortar, not with a machine, but with your feet, stomping through a pit of sand, lime, and water until your legs are caked in a grey, abrasive crust. Then you hoist buckets of this heavy slurry up rickety wooden scaffolding, your muscles screaming. In protest, the foreman shouting at you to move faster. The sun beats down, there is no shade, and the water you drink is warm and tastes of the clay jug it's stored in. A man next to you collapses from heat stroke. No one stops working. He is simply dragged to the side, his fate uncertain. And if you are a craftsman, a potter, or a sandal maker, your life is only marginally better. You are competing with hundreds of others in the same district, all selling the same clay pots, the same leather sandals, or the same cheap wool tunics. Underpricing your rivals is the only way to make a sale, which means your profit margins are razor thin. And the quality of your work does not matter if a richer citizen, a potential customer, decides he does not like your face or the way you bowed to him. Even the more elevated jobs, like being a messenger, an accountant, or a teacher, are far from glamorous. You are either running frantically through Rome's chaotic streets with important scrolls tucked under your arm, trying not to be run over by a senator's litter. You might be scratching numbers onto a wax tablet for a merchant who will forget your name the moment you leave his shop. Or you could be trying to teach the finer points of Latin grammar to a group of senators, children who already believe they are living gods and treat you with open contempt. The women of the city are working, too, of course, their labor just as grueling and even less recognized. They are spinning wool, weaving cloths, selling vegetables at the market, or managing the hot, steamy food stalls that feed the city's endless stream of laborers. On top of that, they are raising the children, managing the household, and trying very hard not to die during childbirth, which is a leading cause of death for women in the empire. They were multitasking long before it was a celebrated skill. After all this, after hours of repetitive, exhausting, and dangerous labor, you get a short break for lunch. That is, if your supervisor is not in a particularly bad mood or trying to impress a visiting prefect with his rigorous, unyielding work ethic. So, yes, you work or you die trying. The great city of Rome may be eternal, but your back, your spirit, and your will to live certainly will not be. Let your own world, with its quiet streets and orderly traffic, grow distant and still. You have made it through the morning's grueling labor without fainting or being flogged by your foreman. Now it is time for your brief lunch break, which means you must once again navigate the ancient Roman streeter, chaotic, crowded, and dangerous gauntlet designed by someone who clearly hated personal space, public health, and basic sanitation. Picture it. The sun is high and hot in the sky, beating down on the stone and plaster of the city. The city is buzzing with a frantic, nervous, and overwhelming energy, and the street is alive. Not in a poetic, metaphorical way, in a literal, teeming, and slightly horrifying way. There are rats, big as small cats, darting between piles of refuse. There are clouds of flies, stray dogs with ribs showing, and sometimes even livestock, a stubborn goat, or a flock of geese being herded through the main thoroughfares. There are beggars with missing limbs. Their pleas are constant, mournful. Chorus. There are merchants yelling in 6 different languages. Their voices a cacophony of commerce. There are children running wild and unsupervised underfoot. And there are thieves, with eyes as quick as their fingers, pretending to help old ladies while expertly pocketing your coin purse. It is like Times Square if Times Square had no plumbing, no traffic laws, and everyone was carrying a live goat. Let us talk about the infrastructure, or the lack thereof. The great Roman roads that connect the empire were engineering marvels, famous for their straightness and durability. But within the city, the streets are often narrow, winding, and overflowing with a foul, soupy blend of urine, spilled wine, vomit, animal waste, and the lingering, ghostly remains of last night's garum sauce. The middle of the street often functions as an open sewer, a slow-moving river of filth. If you step off the raised footpath without looking, congratulations. You have just baptized your sandal in the holy waters of human misery. Wagons and carts clatter by, their iron-rimmed wheels deafening on the cobblestones, with no speed limits, no crosswalks, and absolutely zero chill. They do not stop for pedestrians. In fact, Roman law, in an attempt to reduce the unbearable congestion, actually banned heavy cart traffic in the city center during the day. This sounds like a good idea, until you realize it means that the drivers, desperate to make their deliveries, race through the city at night, in the pitch dark, without brakes, like mad. Homicidal charioteers on a very tight deadline. If you are not crushed by wheels, you will be bumped and jostled by elbows, by overflowing baskets of vegetables, or by an angry fishmonger shouting about his spoiled eels, his voice a testament to human frustration. Then there is the air itself. The air is thick. It is a palpable entity. It is full of smoke from thousands of cooking fires, with the heavy, sweet scent of incense wafting from the many temples, and with the unmistakable, eye-watering perfume of the public latrines carried on the breeze. And, oh yes, dead animals. Sometimes people just leave them where they fall. If a dog drops dead in the forum, someone might just toss a cloth over it and walk away, leaving it for the city's cleanup crew, which may or may not exist and is certainly in no hurry. And do not forget the endless public spectacles, spontaneous brawls that draw cheering crowds, impromptu political protests that can turn violent in an instant, or a politician's grand parade that blocks all traffic for hours while his personal troupe of trumpet players blasts off-key fanfares directly into your weary face. So, yes, the Roman street is alive, and it is probably out to get you. If you slip on a discarded mushy fig, get hit by a runaway cart, or accidentally offend the patrician's pet monkey, your day could end much faster than Caesar's on the Ides of March, and all you were trying to do was go buy a handful of lentils. Your own body is comfortable, clean, and at ease. But let us return to a world where cleanliness was a complicated and dangerous pursuit. You are sweaty, you are dusty, and you are desperately craving a splash of something cold to wash away the accumulated grime of the Roman street. The good news is, you live in the great city of Rome, a city renowned for its magnificent, world-famous aqueducts. Those glorious, towering engineering marvels that carry fresh, clean water from the distant hills, straight into the very heart of the sprawling empire. The bad news is that water does not particularly care about you, unless you are one of the fortunate few wealthy enough to live in a grand domus with your own private, lead-lined fountain and plumbing. You are sharing your water with thousands upon thousands of your closest coughing, sneezing, and definitely not washing neighbors. Your primary options for water are the public fountains, which are constantly crowded day and night. Here, everyone fills their jars, washes their feet, and occasionally dunks a small, protesting child for a bit of fun or what passes for hygiene in this city. And by hygiene, we mean a wet version of blind, optimistic hope. If you truly want to wash your entire body, your best and only option is the thermae, the grand Roman public baths. They are everywhere in the city, architectural wonders, and almost everyone uses them, from the highest senator to the lowliest slave. It sounds civilized, a democratic ideal of cleanliness, does it not? But here is the thing. The water in the baths cycles slowly, if at all, through multiple vast pools. There is no soap as you know it. There is no chlorine. And there is very, very little shame. You begin in the appetiterium, the changing room, a chaotic, noisy space where you leave your tunic in a small, unguarded cubby and pray to the gods it will still be there when you return. Then you proceed to the tepidarium, a warm, humid room to acclimate your body. Finally, you enter the caldarium, the hot bath. You will be sitting in a tepid, cloudy bath with a dozen other men, none of whom believe in the concept of modesty. Conversations are loud, often political, and occasionally completely naked. A man to your right might try to sell you a pair of socks, while another man to your left cleans his ears with a small, pointed stick. To get clean, you do not use soap. You cover your body in oil, and then you and your friends take turns scraping the oil, sweat, and dirt off with a curved metal tool called a strigil. It is an abrasive and deeply personal process you share with complete strangers. And the water. The water has been through everyone. If you were hoping to feel clean after your bath, think again. You are not washing. You are marinating in a warm, communal, human soup, seasoned with a rich broth of bacteria and a faint, misleading hint of eucalyptus oil. And now, for a fun and terrifying fact, the entire magnificent plumbing system that brings water to the fountains and baths often uses lead pipes. Yes, lead. The Romans were masters of engineering, but their grasp of chemistry and toxicology was less impressive. Over time, that convenient and celebrated plumbing could cause a host of delightful side effects. A condition known as satanism or lead poisoning. The symptoms include anemia, gout, infertility, and, if you are truly lucky, a slow and gentle descent into madness. So, perhaps you want to drink something safer. Your best bet is wine. Seriously, water, even from the fountains, is viewed with deep suspicion, especially in the poorer districts where contamination from overflowing latrines and street runoff is a constant threat. So, wine is heavily diluted with water and consumed throughout the day by men, women, and even children. Because what better way to survive the anxieties of a crumbling empire than with a gentle, constant, and low-grade buzz? So yes, Rome brought water into the city with a genius that was centuries ahead of its time, a feat that would not be matched. For over 1,000 years, but for the average citizen like you, it is a dangerous gamble every time you drink, bathe, or even just rinse your dusty, tired toes. Enjoy your aqueducts. Just do not, under any circumstances, trust them. Your own body is comfortable, relaxed, and at ease. But let us drift back to a world where that was a rare and fleeting luxury. Welcome to the Roman Empire, where pain is not just a possibility, it is the constant, humming, and inescapable background. Music of your entire life. You stub your toe on a loose, uneven cobblestone. There is no ice pack. There are no over-the-counter painkillers. You just grit your teeth, maybe curse a minor, irrelevant god, and you keep going until the toe either heals, crooked, or simply falls off. You are working on a construction site and you break a bone. Someone, probably another laborer, wraps it in a dirty rag, tells you to be more careful next time, and you try not to breathe too hard for the next 6 weeks, hoping the bone sets itself properly. You get a deep splinter while carrying wood. Good luck. That is how infections start, and a simple infection is how your life might very well end. Roman society is not built for comfort. There are no ergonomic tools, no padded seats, no cultural concept of taking it easy. If you are a laborer, you are lifting heavy marble blocks with a hernia and a prayer. If you are a soldier, you are marching 20 miles a day with bleeding feet and a scorpion bite on your thigh that you are desperately trying to ignore. If you are a woman in childbirth, well, welcome to a world of pure, unmedicated, and often fatal agony. Your midwife might know a chant or have a lucky herb. She can wave over you. That is about it. Every part of your body is just one misstep away from becoming an open wound or a cautionary tale for the neighborhood children. And unless you live near a temple with a very dedicated priest of Asclepius, your best medical options are homemade ointments, breathing in some herbal smoke, or simply and stoically ignoring the problem until it either resolves itself on its own, or you get resolved into a grave. There is no such thing as anesthesia. Surgeries, if you are unfortunate enough to need one, are performed while you are wide awake and probably being held down, screaming into a block of wood. You have a dislocated shoulder. It will be popped back into place by a large man named Marcus, who learned his technique from watching someone else fail at it. You need dental work. Picture a blacksmith with his tongs and hammers. Now picture your mouth. That is the scene. And if you are enslaved or poor, people do not even pretend to care about your suffering. You could be bleeding out on the side of the road, and the best you will get from a passing patrician is a look of mild disgust and a warning not to stain there. Mosaic footpath. Even the upper-class Romans embraced pain as a proof of virtue. Stoicism was the dominant philosophy of the day, and enduring suffering without any complaint was seen as noble and strong. If you cried out over a broken arm, you were not just in pain. You were weak, and therefore contemptible. Real Romans. You were told, suffer in silence. And then, if they managed to survive, they write some very dramatic and self-congratulatory poetry about it later. Let us dive deeper into the terrifying experience of actually going to see a Roman doctor. Roman medicine is a chaotic, frightening mix of Greek theory, mystical guesswork, and a surprising and often unhelpful amount of leaves. The core belief, inherited from the Greeks, is that the body is ruled by 4 essential fluids, or humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. If you are feeling off, it is because one of them is out of balance. The solution, almost always, is to drain something from your body. So your doctor, who may or may not also be your local barber, immediately reaches for the leeches or a sharp, unsterilized knife, because bloodletting is the default. Go to treatment for everything. From migraines to moral failings, you have a cough. Let us open a vein. Feeling depressed, we will just drain some of that excess sadness out of your arm, and surgery. Oh yes, it exists, and it is horrifying. Roman surgeons had a surprisingly sophisticated toolkit, with scalpels, forceps, and even bone drills. What they did not have, as we mentioned, were anesthetics. You stay conscious through the entire procedure, gripping the edge of a wooden table, while a man in a dirty toga digs into your flesh with the unearned and terrifying confidence of someone who once saw a diagram in a scroll about it. Antiseptics were not really a thing. They might wash wounds with wine or vinegar, which, due to the alcohol and acid, does help a bit, but also burns with the fire of divine punishment. Infection is a very common side effect of any procedure. So is death. Your prescriptions will vary wildly. You might be given honey, garlic, crushed beetles, or a poultice made of herbs, ash, and very specific and carefully chosen types of animal dung. If things get worse, you are advised to go sleep in a temple, pray to the god of healing, and hope that divine dreams will whisper the cure to you. And if none of it works, well, your doctor shrugs his shoulders, your family lights a candle, and your neighbors start whispering about what kind of terrible omen your death might be for the neighborhood. It is not that Romans did not care about health, they just had not quite figured out what helped and what murdered you more efficiently. So, next time you sneeze, be grateful for modern antibiotics, and that you do not live in a world where healing often starts with significant and intentional blood loss. Your breathing is slow and deep, a peaceful, easy rhythm. The sun has finally dipped below the 7 hills of Rome, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. And for a fleeting, foolishly optimistic moment, you think, maybe now, finally, I can rest. But nightfall in the Roman Empire is not a time for peace. It is simply a shift in tone, from the noisy and chaotic dangers of the day to the dark, silent, and downright lethal dangers of the night. First, let's talk about the lighting. There is none, unless you are a part of the wealthy elite, rich enough to afford burning expensive oil lamps all night, and very few are. Most people rely on the pale, unreliable light of the moon, their own memory of the streets, and a kind of blind, desperate hope to find their way through the labyrinthine, unmapped, and treacherous alleys of the city. If you trip and fall in the dark over a loose stone or a sleeping dog, no one is helping you up. They might just take your shoes and disappear. Silently into the gloom, the vigils, Rome's official night watchmen, are supposed to patrol the streets, prevent fires, and stop crimes. In practice, they are a small force, overworked, deeply underpaid, and often more interested in finding a quiet, dark corner to nap than in heroics. Some are brave, most are bribable, and all of them are hopelessly outnumbered by the city's nocturnal population. The criminals of the city know this very well. Thieves, muggers, and the occasional bored ex-gladiator looking for trouble roam the shadows, looking for easy marks. If you are walking home alone after dark, you are the easy mark. It does not matter who you are, unless you are armed, incredibly fast, or completely invisible. You are at risk. And then there is the ever-present threat of fire, Rome's greatest and most constant nighttime terror. The insulae, those charming 7-story wooden death trap apartments you and most of the city sleep in, are made of wood, dreams, and highly flammable materials. Cooking after dark is illegal for this very reason, but laws mean little to a hungry tenant with a powerful craving for burnt porridge. A single overturned oil lamp, a stray spark from a hidden brazier, can reduce an entire city block to a mountain of smoking ash in a matter of hours. The Great Fire of 64 CE did not start itself, but once it did, it raged like the god Mars in a particularly bad mood. You might think your building is safe until you smell smoke at midnight and realize, with a jolt of pure terror, that there is no organized evacuation plan. There are no fire alarms. There are no sprinkler systems. You just grab your one good tunic, your chamber pot, and maybe your dignity, and you sprint for your life down a collapsing, burning staircase into a street filled with screaming, panicked people. And if it is not fire or thieves that keep you awake, it is the noise. Drunken parties from the tavern downstairs echo through the streets. Religious processions for obscure, minor gods parade by with loud drums and enthusiastic, atonal shouting. And if a senator's mistress is upset about something, everyone within a 3-block radius knows about it in great detail. Sleep in ancient Rome is a luxury. Silence is a myth, and safety that is reserved for the wealthy, the armed, and the extraordinarily lucky. But hey, morning is almost here. You just have to survive one more night, and then wake up and do it all over again. Let your mind drift and settle, your breathing slow and easy. You have survived the doctor's questionable care, your body aching but still your own. You might hope now to find some comfort in the spiritual realm, a moment of peace and personal connection with the divine. But you are in the Roman Empire, and religion here is not a private affair of the heart. It is a vast, complex, and demanding public institution, an ever-present cloud of incense, obligation, and quiet fear that wraps around every single waking moment of your life. You do not simply choose your gods. They are already chosen for you, and they are everywhere. There is a god, a spirit, or a deity for literally everything. When you walk through a doorway, you are expected to give a silent nod to Janus, the two-faced god of beginnings and entrances. The hinges of that door have their own goddess, Cardia. The sewers that run beneath your feet are watched over by the goddess Clysina. The very boundaries of the property you pass are guarded by Terminus. Even the mildew growing on the damp walls of your insula has a god Robagus, who must be appeased. You cannot walk 5 paces down a street without crossing a small shrine, an altar, or a sacred space dedicated to some minor deity. If you do not pause to bow your head, light a small, cheap candle, or mutter a quick, half-hearted prayer, you are not just being rude to the gods. You are actively inviting catastrophe into your life. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually, the gods take notice of neglect. And when your roof finally collapses in the next rainstorm, everyone in your building will nod knowingly and whisper among themselves, "Ah, yes, he skipped the Saturnalia offering last winter. A pity." The calendar is filled with religious festivals, dozens upon dozens per year, and attendance is not optional. On these days, all business in the city stops. The air grows thick with the smell of roasting bull and wet, blood-stained marble as animals are publicly sacrificed at the temples. You attend these events not just out of a sense of piety, but also out of fear, because if the gods are not honored properly with the correct rituals and the appropriate level of enthusiasm, they will surely retaliate. They will send plagues to your neighborhood, droughts to the farmlands, or a really bad harvest that ruins everyone's already meager lentil supply. Now, let's talk about the most important god of all, the emperor. The state does not just want your obedience, it demands your reverence. The emperor is to be worshipped not just as a ruler, but as a living god on earth. You are expected to offer incense at his public altars, to sing his praises during parades, and to never, ever roll your eyes during one of his triumphal processions. To do so is not just disrespectful, it is treason adjacent, a dangerous and foolish act. If you are caught not participating in public worship, say, you are a little too quiet during the Vestalia, or you do not show up to toss a handful of sacred grain into the temple flame, you could be labeled as impious, atheistic, or worst of all, suspicious. And suspicion in Rome is like blood in shark-infested waters. It draws unwanted and dangerous attention. If you happen to be part of a foreign cult, perhaps a follower of Isis or Mithras, you had better keep that devotion under wraps unless it has been officially approved by the state. The Roman state does not like unfamiliar gods unless they bring with them the promise of new wine, more taxes, or fresh soldiers for the legions. Roman religion is not about what you believe in your heart. It is about what you do. It is about performing the correct rituals at the correct time and in public, with the correct expression of solemnity. You do not have to feel it in your soul. You just have to do it. And you had better try to look like you mean it while you sacrifice that goat. Speaking of performances, let us now climb the greasy, treacherous pole of Roman ambition. Your breathing is a quiet rhythm, pulling you further into stillness. You have bowed to the countless gods, your spirit weary from the constant need to perform your piety. But now comes the most exhausting and treacherous part of Roman life, the social hierarchy. A brutal, finely tuned machine where every word, every gesture, and even the placement of the strap on your sandal could make or break you. Roman society is a ladder, but it is a ladder that is covered in oil and lined with daggers. At the very top are the senators, the old money, the men in togas with proud purple stripes who own vast tracts of land that have their own postal codes. Below them are the equestrians, the wealthy business class, rich but without the ancient lineage of the senators. Then come the plebeians, a vast and sprawling category that includes people like Eutha, struggling middle and lower classes. Below you are the freedman, former slaves, and below them, at the very bottom, are the slaves, who are considered property. Foreigners and the man who accidentally insulted a statue of Augustus once also occupied these lower rungs. Do you want to? move up this ladder. You cannot do it alone. You will need patrons, powerful, wealthy individuals who will protect you and advocate for you in exchange for your absolute, lifelong loyalty. This loyalty includes running errands, offering political support, and giving constant, fawning praise. It is like having a boss, a godfather, and a very demanding landlord all rolled into one charmingly condescending package. Each morning, your day begins with thesalutatio, the morning greeting. You must visit your patron's home at dawn. You will wait in a long, crowded line with his other clients, all of you hoping for a moment of his time. When you are finally granted an audience, you praise his new haircut. You compliment his son's surprisingly well-draped toga, and then you humbly beg for a favor, usually money, a bit of food, or a letter of recommendation for a minor job. If you are lucky, he will toss you a small coin and then allow you the great honor of helping to carry his litter through the forum. Congratulations, you are now connected. Every single move you make from this point on is watched and judged. Your tunic must be clean, not fashionable. That would be presumptuous, but simply clean. Your speech must be proper and respectful at all times. Your friends must be carefully selected, as associating with the wrong people could reflect badly on your patron and therefore on you. And whatever you do, you must not show too much ambition. That makes powerful people nervous. If you rise too quickly, if you gain a bit of wealth or influence, others will conspire to knock you back down, either socially or, in some cases, literally. Networking in Rome is a form of warfare. Gossip is the primary currency. The wrong, careless comment at a banquet can end your career. The right marriage, however, can save your entire bloodline, but you had better play it carefully. Love is for poets and fools. The rest of Rome marries for political alliances and access to estates, and even if you do manage to climb a few rungs up that greasy pole, you can never get comfortable. One bad harvest that affects your patron's income, one religious ritual that you miss, one jealous rival whispering poison into your patron's ear, and it is all over. You will be cast out, your connections severed, and you will fall faster than you ever rose. You will not even hear the dagger coming. Now the sun is setting, and surely things must calm down at night. But you are in Rome, and the night holds its own special kind of terror. And so, your long and harrowing day in Rome comes to a close. The sounds of the chaotic city, the shouting vendors, and the rumbling carts begin to fade into a distant, gentle hum. You woke up this morning in a crumbling, fire-prone insula, your lungs full of smoke and your skin crawling from a lice-infested straw bed. You survived the deeply unsettling social ordeal of the public toilets, the cold, unforgiving stone, and the horrifying memory of the shared communal sponge. You navigated the chaos of the streets, dodging reckless carts and stepping over open sewers, the stench of human misery a constant companion. You witnessed the bloody, state-sponsored gore of the gladiators in the Colosseum, your cheers lost. In a crowd baying for death, you have felt the slow, creeping effects of the poison from the city's lead pipes and drank the questionable water from its public fountains. You endured the well-intentioned but terrifying torture of a Roman doctor's leeches and his surgeries without anesthesia. You participated in the endless religious festivals, bowing to gods you do not understand out of a quiet, gnawing fear. Of their wrath, you have felt the terror of the Roman night, with its shadowy alleys, its sudden fires, and its profound, threatening darkness. You ate a dinner of bland, half-cooked lentils, soaked in a sauce made of fermented fish guts, a taste that will haunt your memory. You have bowed to patrons who see you as a tool, obeyed laws that do not truly protect you, and you have tried to find sleep through the noise of riots, the scuttling of rats, and the occasional public decapitation. You are dirty. You are tired. You are possibly infected with something mythical, and you are emotionally scarred by the sheer, relentless struggle of it all. And it has only been one day. Would you last another? Honestly, no, you wouldn't. Most modern humans, with our climate-controlled homes, our instant access to antibiotics, and our 5-minute food delivery windows, would crumble before lunchtime. You would give up long before the second round of grum. You would trade your entire pouch of silver denarii for a hot shower, a quiet room, and a chair with a proper back on it. And that is okay. And yet, the Romans did it. They endured it for centuries, because here is the maddening, magnificent, and terrible thing about them. In the middle of all this filth, this brutality, this noise, and this pain, the Roman Empire worked. Somehow, against all odds, it thrived. They built cities, roads that still exist today, and monumental aqueducts that carried water across valleys with breathtaking precision. They erected libraries, temples, and amphitheaters of such scale and beauty that they continue to humble us. They expanded their empire across continents, from the misty shores of Britain to the sun-scorched sands of Egypt. They administered complex laws, some of which still form the bedrock of Western legal systems. They developed profound philosophy, contemplating the nature of duty and existence while living in a world of casual brutality. They mapped the stars, they performed cataract surgeries, and they invented a form of concrete so durable that the dome of the Pantheon still stands today, a silent testament to their genius. They created systems of governance and culture that shaped Europe and the world beyond for 2,000 years. Their language, Latin, became the root of half the languages you hear today, its grammar and vocabulary echoing in science, medicine, and law. Their architecture, with its grand arches and domes, inspired cathedrals, parliaments, and college campuses across the globe. Their political concepts, senates, the power of a veto still echo through the halls of modern democracies. But it all came at an almost unimaginable cost. For the average Roman, not the emperors in their palaces, not the marble-bathed elite, but for the millions of ordinary people, daily life was a hard-fought, relentless grind. It was a life lived on the edge of a blade, where survival was a daily victory. And yet, they endured. They adapted. They had to. They did not have a choice. Because the great and terrible city of Rome was not made of gold or marble. It was made of sweat, of fear, of unrelenting ambition, and of the simple, dogged refusal to give up. It was built, layer by layer, person by person, century by bloody century. And that, perhaps, is why it lasted. You do not need to survive ancient Rome. You just need to understand it. And maybe, just maybe, as you lie here in your safe and quiet room, you can appreciate that someone, somewhere, a person whose name is lost to time, once walked those same filthy, dangerous streets, hauled those same heavy bricks, and helped build an empire. They endured it all so that you could lie here today, clean, safe, and mildly, comfortably horrified. So now, let the sounds and smells of ancient Rome fade completely from your mind. Let the dust of the Forum settle. Let the echoes of the Colosseum fall silent. You are back in the quiet, peaceful comfort of your own time, in your own bed. Feel the deep sense of peace and gratitude that comes from knowing you are safe. Let your eyelids grow heavy. as heavy as a legionary's shield after a long march. Let your body sink into a deep, restful, and well-deserved sleep, free from the worries of a world that is no longer yours. Rest now. Sleep well.